Micro brews, dude.
Dude. Craft Brews and Casual Conversations, joined with me from the band The Dirty Nil. We have Luke with us, singer, guitar player, master of the universe. Luke, thanks so much for coming to hang out.
Listen, it's my pleasure to be here, Drew, so thanks for having me.
I got to see The Dirty Nil play with the Menzingers last August in Wisconsin. You played at the Sylvie in Madison. And then I do know you played at High Noon Saloon. I think it was after that as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I think at the Sylvie show, we got to knock a few beers back with Mr. Greg Norton from Husker Du. So that was a great time.
Yeah, man. You spent a good amount of time in Wisconsin, and you're coming back with Heart Attack, man. I think July 9th, something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's going to be a good show. I've never been to the Vivarium in Milwaukee, but have you been in Wisconsin outside of those shows?
Yes, we've been coming to Wisconsin since about, I think, for about 10 years now. Kind of, I don't think we hit it every time, but I wish we did because we always have such a great time there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state. But you're going on a big tour because you have the new album coming out, The Lash, July 29th. 2 singles are released right now, Gallop of the Hounds, Spider Dreams. What's been the process of recording this album? Maybe that's been a little bit different than from your previous albums.
Well, this is the first album that we've done with our good friend Vince Salaveri here in Hamilton. For our previous albums, we've enlisted the expert guidance and services of Mr. John Goodmanson from Seattle. And he's got an incredible resume of records that he's done. Everything from Sleater Kinney, Death Cab for Cutie, Blood Brothers. And so anyways, John showed us how to be in a band in the studio. He showed us how to record, how to sharpen our skills for recording. And what goes into making a rock and roll record that kicks ass. And so this is the first time that we've gone outside working with John and worked with a friend of ours. Vince works out of a studio called Boxcar just down the street from us here. So, not only did we go with a friend who is local, we went with a really small, kind of more blue collar studio than we usually do in making this record. And it's kind of all about, placing a bit more of a bet on ourselves and kind of, basically betting on that we can still make a record that we're really happy with, but do it in a faster and more simple way than kind of going to a really, really nice studio with tons of gear that we never use and all this outboard gear that never gets touched. And we were doing our demos with Vince at this studio, Boxcar, and we were doing, like 8 songs in one day and just doing it off the floor. And it was like, this sounds pretty damn good already. So, let's make the record with Vince. Let's do it. He knows the songs. He knows the band. He's incredibly competent. And he's in a Simpsons encyclopedia, and all you got to do is feed him pizza and bubbly, and he can work for 14 hours straight. So, yeah, we just kind of took a bit more of a domestic approach to this one, and we're really happy with the results.
Yeah, and even on the deluxe versions of your albums, Free Reign's Passion, I've listened to the demos and everything, and when I'm listening to the demos, I'm like, these are pretty similar to how they sound on the album. At least from what I can tell. Is that kind of how you approach it? Do you does the producer tend to give you suggestions or cues or anything like that, or is it kind of like, this is what we got, this is what we're working with, and this is what we want?
I'd say we kind of fall more in the latter category. Just generally speaking, on our workflow at this point, we're certainly willing to hear suggestions and in terms of arrangement alterations or specific sounds or approaches or tempos, yada yada yada. But we do the hard yards down in the jam space and kind of treat the studio as a place of getting to enjoy what we've worked for and laying it down, rather than paying for studio time and hoping that the creative juices will flow while we're paying per hour. We don't. We're very. We got our asses kicked a lot in the early years of the band in terms of trying to record and being very clearly informed by our recordings that we weren't nearly as ready for them as we thought we were, and so that really had a significant impact on how we treat the studio. The studio is somewhere where we go to have fun, and we usually leave a little bit of breathing space and a little bit of space for spontaneity in the studio in the crop of songs. They're not all nailed down airtight, but 95% of it probably is before we set the mics up.
Awesome. So are you then, you're kind of recording, do you approach an album when you're writing music as like, how is this going to sound live? Or is it more like, this is what, are you thinking about the record first?
We're definitely I'd say that so the general way that the band has worked is that I'll write a song in either on my electric or acoustic guitar and try and get as much of it done as I possibly can, but also leave lots of room for arrangement, not make it too cluttered. I'll usually write the chords and the lyrics and the melodies, and then I'll bring it in and we'll bash on it for as long as it takes, basically, to get it good. And if it, for the format of the Dirty Nil and the kind of 3-piece format, we definitely arrange things in the space with an ear and a concern for how it'll sound live. We don't have a whole lot of tracks that are kind of studio dependent. Everything's kind of arranged and recorded in a way that will still be able to be pulled off live. I think we're just kind of less of a studio band in that way, where we're not like the Beach Boys or something, where we just kind of like do whatever we want in the studio and then try and figure it out later. There have been moments and incidents like that when we've really gone hog wild with guitars or whatever and said, okay, well, what am I actually going to do when we play this live? But most of it is arranged, which is the hard. I'd say the most amount of work goes into the arrangement, with live performance as the primary focus. But our jam space is terrible. It's basically a concrete bunker. And we keep saying, oh, we're going to soundproof it one day. It's been 10 years, brother. No soundproofing yet. Wouldn't hold out. So it's terrible. And we still use the PA system that my mom bought me when I was 16 years old. Yeah. So it's pretty blown out. And so, our basic philosophy is that if we can get this howling bunker sounding good on a given song, then it's going to kick ass when we set mics up. So that's kind of, it's not dogma for us, but it's definitely our guiding light of, we don't try and depend on magic in the studio to try and make the song sound good.
Well, when I saw you guys at the Sylvia, I will say you sounded polished. Like, you guys sounded really fucking good, and
Thank you, Drew.
It really, really hyped us up. I used to have a radio show called Drew's Punk Rock Power Hour, so that's kind of how I stumbled on the Dirty Nil. I was like looking for just bands or music I haven't listened to before. I think the first one I heard is What Heaven Feels Like, and I was like, this fucking rips. And like, just the, you're, like you said, you're a 3-piece. You have, you could say you have punk sensibilities, but you're just like you're rock and roll band, and it was amazing. And then I fell in love ever since. Fuck Art, I think, is probably one of my favorite albums in quite some time. I like Free Reigns of Passion as well. But it's pretty cool to see like just the powerhouse of the 3-piece. I think sometimes that art is gone almost.
Well, thank you, Drew. I mean, it's funny because I think that part of the DNA of our band is that Kyle and I were a two-piece for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was always trying to make as much. I do play some guitar solos and stuff here and there, but I'm more. The whole band and my guitar style has kind of been oriented around like being the only guitar in the band, and so it's funny because I have a friend's band that's called Single Mothers, and I'll go play guitar there. And sometimes there'll be two guitars, and I find it so fun and interesting, but also challenging because I'm just not used to playing with another guitar player. I'm used to having kind of free reign, if I may drop a pun and a plug for our previous album, free reign over those guitar frequencies. So, and then Kyle's developed his drum style in the same kind of way, like with basically, the three-piece format. So, I think that I think you can make a lot of sound with three people, like especially if you kind of carve out your frequencies and you arrange things with live performance in mind. You can make a mighty sound where you don't need to kind of layer lots of guitars or get really fancy in the studio. If you just kind of if you bash away on it, you can make a pretty good arrangement for three people.
Yeah, and I think you've done a pretty stellar job about that. And I've been listening to the two singles, the latest one, Spider Dream, which is a little bit of a different, I guess you could say, from what could be expected. What's the process of picking out the singles? Do you personally think like this one and this one should be good because you're going to be playing shows before the album is released? So like, what's your kind of like approach to that? Does that sometimes does playing earlier hinder the new tunes, or do you think it's still a benefit because you get to play some of these new ones live in front of people? They just might not be super familiar with them yet because it hasn't been released.
Yeah, I mean it's a balance of all things, and I mean I'm a firm believer in road testing material before you record it as much as possible. I mean, we didn't get to road test all of these tunes. We've never road tested every tune before we recorded it, but the ones that you that you have a good feeling about, if you do get the opportunity to play them in front of people, it really will highlight to you if there are any kind of issues with the song when you play it in front of in a live format, especially stacked in between more tried and tested tunes. It really kind of gives you some perspective on where that song's at. But in terms of choosing singles, it's definitely it's a collaborative kind of brainstorm, and with choosing, I think last time we went with fewer singles, and this time we're going with about 5 singles.
Okay.
So we had a few more slots to play with, and this newest record of ours, the Lash, available late July, is definitely, I would say, the loudest and quietest moments that we've ever recorded are on this record. And Spider Dream, I think, is a good showcase of the kind of quieter side. In terms of that song, it was really fun. Like I got COVID and sometime in 2022 or 2023, and it all blends together now,
It does.
But I was watching that Beatles documentary, that Get Back documentary, and I was watching them use all these seventh chords and diminished chords, and I was like, I've never really messed around with those. So I just kind of went to my room, and I was kind of feeling pretty feverish, and I banged that tune out and I showed it to Kyle, and Kyle's like, we can work with this. It might not be a basher, but we can do this. And honestly, I think the fastest arrangement for any of the new songs was that one. Everybody just kind of fell in.
Nice.
Well, what happened was we were playing it, and it was still getting louder and faster and louder and faster. And then somebody said, well, while we just play this one song, let's just all sit down. So we sat down, and then it instantly came together. And it didn't change at all from basically the first time we played it sitting down. It fell into places. I always love the ones that come together quickly because not only does it feel right, but it's way less tearing your hair out and, revisions and stress and whatever. So that one holds a special place in our heart, I think, just because it feels right. I love playing that one.
You've got to play it live in front of people already?
We have indeed. We did it a few times on that Men Singers tour, and we hit a point where I think we were all pretty ill, and I was like, well, it's probably a good point to throw in a chiller tune or so, just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of breathing space before we hop back into the maelstrom. So we did it, and I remember the Lucero guys were like, "What's that song?" And I was just like, "It's coming on our new album," and so they were really stoked on it. And I love that band, so that was a nice kind of thumbs up, an early thumbs up on that one.
Good. Yeah, I could see why Lucero would be totally into that tune. That's kind of their vibe a little bit. I think at the Sylvie show you played, was it Rock and Roll Band? Something. Yeah, that was one that I wasn't familiar with at the time, but I did enjoy it, and I was I like that track a lot too. Cool, man. That's good. So you've been working on this stuff for a little bit, because your last album was 2023, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're kind of pumping out the records pretty quickly here. Is there like a right time, do you think, to get to a new album, or is it kind of just like, we have these songs, we've already been working on them, let's get them together?
I think that we I'm always working on new material, and I kind of try and gauge in terms of like our touring schedule and our what's going on with that, in terms of where I want to slot in the time to put on the hard hats and get down in the jam space and start arranging some of the material that I've written. So we were kind of chipping away at arranging some of this stuff over the Free Rein to Passions touring cycle, but at the same time we had a lot of time off at the end of 2023, and that's kind of when I whipped out a bunch of these tunes for us to really hammer on. And so it came together really quick, and then we basically just called Vince and we're like, I think we're pretty much ready to make this thing. And we made it about a year ago now.
Oh, wow.
And we're kind of well off onto the next one as we speak now. But
damn,
I used to be a lot more congested and superstitious as a writer, and be like, well, I can only work when I feel very inspired.
Sure.
And wouldn't you know it, I wrote very little songs during that approach. I'm much more workmanlike about it now, and also I understand, like, when it comes to writing songs and trying to be as prolific as I can. I understand that I have to. It's much better to be consistently working on it than to let it slide for a year and then like have to relearn how to write songs. I mean, everybody's got their own approach to this kind of stuff, but in my opinion, writing songs is just about two things. It's about confidence and making decisions. And it's like, decision one, I like this chord. Decision two, I like that chord. And then, trying a vocal melody, trying some lyrics over it, being like, I like that, move on. I find for myself personally that when I stop writing and let those muscles atrophy, I have a much harder time making decisions. And so everything gets really slow and tedious and plodding and existential and stressful. But when I've got lots of material on the go, because I've been working on it consistently, it's a lot more fun for the band too, to work on songs when there's lots to work on, so that you're not getting stuck on, if I only bring in one song,
right,
for us to bash away on, it's probably going to get pounded into powder, because it's the only thing that we can work on. But if I have like five, then it's like, okay, well, we've kind of reached a bit of a stalemate on that one. Let's put that one down instead of hammering it into oblivion. Let's pick up this one. What about this one? And see how that one goes. So yeah, I'm much more consistent and prolific in my output now. And I would say that both Kyle and I are much, much happier with that being the case.
Awesome. And you guys have a pretty, now you have a great catalog of tons of great tunes. How do you put your set list together so you got this upcoming tour with Heart Attack Man? Because you change it up from night to night, or like, is it predominantly going to be the same kind of?
Well, we do try and change it up night to night because for both the crowd and our own sanity, because people come to multiple shows, and we definitely want to respect that. Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's certain songs that like we really can't do a set without playing.
Yeah.
I would say, just in terms of, when we get up on the stage, the art part of our job is over, and we are entertainers. And we've all been to gigs by bands where they didn't play what they should have played, and it's a bit of a dinger. And I don't fault anybody who brings a bit more art onto the stage and says, well, I'm here to do whatever I want to do, and you're gonna live with it. That's fine. That's not our approach, though. I mean, we're a band of the people. Yeah. We are. As I said, we leave the art at the door when we go on tour, and we're there to make people happy. And honestly, it is very enjoyable. I never get sick of playing any of our songs. Like it fills me with new energy to hear the crowd sing them back, even though we've played them 1,000 times or whatever, like some songs we've probably played 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. It's still fun every night. I can't believe that we get to do this for a living. It's amazing. And I don't want to, we never lose sight of that. And we try and treat our crowd and our audience and anybody that's willing to stand and listen to us play with as much respect and consideration as possible.
What's the one staple song? If you had to say, this is the Dirty Nil, this is what people love, what's the one song you think people are expecting?
Ooh, damn. I mean, like, I guess That's What Heaven Feels Like is probably a pretty good one. Doom Boy is another one that, I couldn't see putting a set together without either of those two songs. I think everything else is negotiable. But those two songs are pretty much permanently in the set list. Blunt Force Concussion, permanently in the set list, I'd say. Then we have some longer songs. Like our most popular song on Spotify by far is the last track off of Master Volume, which is called Evil Side, which is a song that I had been working on it for years by the time we actually recorded it. And it's never been a single or anything. It's just people seem to really like that song. But because of its length, it's got a pretty extensive guitar apocalypse at the end. We can only throw it in when we have the breathing space to do so. Yeah. But people get pissed if we don't play that song. And so, I mean, it is about, I as I said, like we do try and consider our fans and respect them as much as possible. But at the same time, like we are human beings and we have our own agenda and we have things that we need to get done. So what I have realized, and we are in the position now where people do like various parts of our catalog. We're not a band with one or two songs that are head and shoulders above the rest of them. There are every single night, it doesn't matter what we try and do, we're going to disappoint people. And in terms of our set list choices, that is a luxurious but real problem that we have to kind of confront and accept to a certain extent. But that doesn't mean that we're not trying to make as many people happy as possible.
Well, you only have a certain amount of time. It's not like you can just go up there for 4 hours and get all the tunes out there. So you're limited to what you can do. Absolutely. But
that's why we try and change it up, especially in between tours. Say like, okay, well, this is going to be the kind of the skeleton, a scaffolding of this tour. And then next tour, we're going to change that up so that, hopefully we make a few more people happy. If they came out if they come out again, hopefully we can make those people happy if we couldn't make them happy the first time around. I mean, we did a show in Hamilton here on Halloween, and people have been yelling at us over social media, like, why don't you play this song? You never play this song. You never play that song. And so like all these older tunes, and we tried to pad out the set with all these older tunes that like used to be staples in the set, but we haven't played them in a long time. We did all these songs, and then we had people complaining afterwards, like they played a bunch of crap from the old, like who wants to hear this? So that's when it really dawned on me that like if you want to make people happy, sell ice cream.
Right.
It's rock and roll, especially if you're fortunate enough, like we are, to get to this kind of stage of it. You're gonna disappoint people every night, and you just got to get used to it. So I mean, we try. We are trying, guys. We are trying, but we are going to come up short for some people. So apologies in advance.
I think you're doing an excellent job. One last question. Did you really crash a limo when you were 25?
I did indeed. So I had this job in between tours. It was in between this giant tour that we did with single mothers and going on the Warp Tour.
Mm-hmm. Oh, crazy.
Summer 2015. I was working at this limo place, very, very sketchy place. They're no longer in business. Apparently they're running drugs out of there, which is no surprise to me. But anyways, my job there was I had to basically I was like, I had to, inherit this limousine that had come in from the night before and totally reset it, re-clean it, top up the oil, do everything so that it could go out the night before, and clean out all of the interesting things that people leave in limousines. Yeah. And I'll let your imagination do the work on that one. But they gave me no training of any kind. They just threw me a squeegee and said, get to work. Part of my job was also maneuvering these limousines around a very, very tight little parking lot in a strip mall here in Burlington, Ontario. And there was one day where I'd been out a bit late the night before. I'll leave it at that. And I was thrown the keys to the pride of the fleet. This is an Escalade limo.
Oh, damn.
This is a large automobile. And they threw me the keys, and I was a little bit foggy-eyed, a little tired from the night before, still waking up. And I clipped the back of this thing off of a truck that was completely just, broken down in the parking lot. And I was like, fuck. I'm not even going to say the word, but you can imagine my reaction.
Yeah.
That shook me out of my stupor. And I went into the office and I told them, I just damaged the Escalade limo. And they said, well, you're going to have to pay for that. And I said, no, I don't. And they're like, well, you have to. And I said, if I work at the Hubble telescope and I break the lens, I don't owe those people $1 billion. That's not how it works. You can fire me, go ahead. But I don't owe you $1 billion. So they're like, well, listen, everybody here's paying off something that they damaged. And I said, well, that's illegal. And I said, listen, let's say this. You owe me $500 for my next paycheck. How about you keep that and continue your criminal enterprise, and I'll walk my way, and I'll write a song about it and profit off this in my own way. So there you go. That place is out of business now, so it didn't. My $500 paycheck didn't buy them enough grace to get out of the other troubles they were in. But that's the whole story.
Hell yeah! It's one of my favorite songs on Free Range. I do enjoy that song quite a bit because we all know those people that. You want to say that kind of stuff too. Well, but Luke, man, I appreciate you hopping on. How can people, see what the Dirty Nil is up to? How can they learn about all the tour stops that are coming up this summer?
Well, head on to our Instagram page or our Facebook page. We've got everything posted there. Obviously, with the way things work now, you might not get all the updates. So just make sure that you're subscribed on there. Everything that we're doing, we're posting there. And we've got a big summer ahead, and I'm just really stoked on this record. This is my favorite record we've made since Master Volume. So those are my two favorite Nil records so far. Nice. And I just hope that I'm just really thankful that anybody digs what we're doing, and I love being alive, and hail, hail, rock and roll. That's all I got to say, Drew.